One of them was a notice to you, a recommendation from the commissioner, saying that he was recommending against Gloucester and listing out in detail explicit reasons why the charter school office and the commissioner had recommended against Gloucester. In fact, it's one of the lines in that letter said, explained that it was the first time that all applicants had been turned down in 1 year to the board. She also prepared a letter to the applicant group. And in that letter it said the commissioner had found that the charter school group had failed to meet one or more criteria. In fact, when Commissioner Chester communicated with the board before its meeting in February of 09, he stated that the other two applicant groups had failed to meet one or more criteria. I asked Commissioner Chester in our interview, did you ever get a list of which criteria the charter school office had found Gloucester had not met? At first he said yes, but eventually he said no. No such list was ever given to the commissioner. My point is the following. This is a criteria-based process. The regulations establish criteria. The application establishes criteria. This criteria-based system stands in place of a local school committee or a board of selectmen or a town meeting or city council. You, in locus parentis, take over for the establishment of a school in a district. And so the criteria-based system stands as a hallmark of integrity, fairness. This case is the first case in the history of this program where a charter was awarded to a school after the charter school office determined they had not met the criteria. My assertion in my report, no one has ever determined that they met the criteria. Not you, the board, not the commissioner. Between the time of that notification on the 4th and the time that the commitment was made to go ahead, there were no meetings with the charter school office because the commissioner was in Arizona. In other words, this represents, in my view, an egregious misrepresentation to the legislative committee. That is my primary finding of my report. And I think that it is not commendable. My recommendation is that because of the fact that the board, the department, has established a procedure, that said, the commissioner will not recommend that the board award charters to applicant groups whose applications do not meet the stated criteria for a charter in the application as corroborated in the final interview of the applicant group by the charter school office. That is what it said in the rules for that year. That is what it says on your website today. I checked. It still says that. One final thought. In the email that Secretary Revel sent Commissioner Chester on the 5th, he said, I appreciate your openness and flexibility. What does that mean? I'll tell you what I think it means. I think it means that Commissioner Chester heard from the charter school office on the 4th that they recommended against all three applicant groups. The Commissioner Chester told this to Secretary Revel, and Secretary Revel was not happy to hear that there would be no charters granted that year. And I don't even have a problem with that philosophy, because his job is to start charters in Massachusetts. However, it can't be politically based. That email set forth political reasons. I did not see any evidence that Commissioner Rebel had any involvement in anything beyond that email, and that's after careful scrutiny. But what I did find in our review is that this decision made a 180-degree reversal, and that it is impossible, based on the forensic record that I saw, that Commissioner Chester conducted a review within that limited period of time in which he determined that the school, in fact, did meet the criteria. Why? Because he never even had a list of which criteria they did not meet. That's based upon testimony of the other officials in the department. I asked the other officials in the department whether there were any meetings afterwards with the charter school office. There were none. Was that the final meeting, the presentation? The answer, absolutely. So, my question is this. If a charter is granted by a process that plainly violates that provision of the application that says the commissioner will not bring it forward to the board unless it meets the criteria as corroborated by the charter school office, how can that stand? That is a fundamental, fatal flaw in the process, in my estimation, and would certainly give you grounds to render this charter void for that reason. That is my opinion. Secondly, because the two criteria that the charter school office found that the Gloucester Charter Arts School did not meet were directly from the regs. And so what happened here, in my opinion, was that a process took place, although it may have been well-intended in the goal of creating charter schools. It compromised the integrity of a system that relies upon a fair, criteria-based process. And so I ask that you, if you have doubt as to whether these findings would give you grounds to void the charter from the outset as having been invalidly awarded, that you would seek an opinion from the Department of the Attorney General. Thank you for listening to me today and for your cooperation.